G'day everyone, welcome back to this production run video. At the moment I'm removing all the tenons. For those that haven't been here before and you're wondering why I'm holding a whiteboard, it's just some stuff that I note down whilst I'm working away doing different bits and bobs that I want to talk about and show you how I go about doing things. Mainly all the little pain points that I come across I want to talk about, or just give you a bit of an update of what's happening here in the workshop. So today I'm going to show you 5 different ways of how you can remove your tenons on your wooden bowls and things like that, because I believe having a bit of an arsenal of knowledge, or many feathers in the cap, so to speak, that can assist you in coming about solving things in your workshop. So when you go and come across a difficult piece that you might not have done before, you just remember that little bit of knowledge or a little bit of information that you gain from watching someone else, and you go, that's how I'm going to solve that issue. And I believe the more we can help one another in this wood turning community, the better off we'll all be, and we can keep this craft, this beloved craft, moving forward in the right direction. So yes. How'd you like that? That was a bit off the cuff there, but that's how I feel about it all. Anyway, moving on. These are my talking points here as well, and if you don't know me, my name is Kerry Corney, a wood turner from Brisbane, Australia. Beautiful one day, better the next, as we like to say. So these are all my talking points here. Yes, the VersaFlow is back in action. So I'm going to start with the jam chuck, number 4. Let's get that one happening. First of all, I've got just a chunk of camphor laurel here that was just, wrong chuck key. That was just sitting in my little blue bucket over there. And I've just got a little mortise in it, and I've just mounted it on the lathe here on one of my little chucks. And I don't like, as you probably all know, I don't like turning bowls and things like that with mortises, because a tenon timber is stronger under contraction than it is in expansion. So I always like turning pieces with tenons. But when it comes to platters, obviously I turn them with the mortise. Anyway, so this is another little bit of camphor laurel, a little pot, and now there's 2 ways of making a jam chuck, and I don't normally use jam chucks because I have the added advantage of a vacuum pump. I've got the cold jaws, plus I've got other chuck sizes that can sort of hold the outside of pieces, plus pretty much all the ways of removing a tenon I've done before. But I don't normally use jam chucks. I use jam chucks when I'm making boxes, not doing bowls. But hey, another feather in our cap, hopefully, if all things go according to plan. So way you can go about doing it is mounting it on a piece like so, or having the inside of another bowl with fairly straight sides, and it cups inside of a bowl. And if time permits, I'll show you how I'll do that just with this other little bowl there. I'll just turn the inside and I'll show another way of making a jam chuck. So we're going to mount it on this. A way of marking it is by measuring the inside diameter with your vernier calipers. And someone please note how many times I say vernier calipers, because normally it's either Roman OG or vernier calipers. I get it stuck in my head and it's just on repeat. So I'm just going to measure up the inside. Hopefully that camera is picking that up. Measure up the inside of the vernier calipers, and then I can just nip that up there, take it across, put our helmet on. Hopefully my helmet doesn't hit that. Flick the lathe on, and I've just got that, and I'm just going to touch the back with my vernier calipers there. And then we can come across. I've got a little square end scraper here that I usually make when I'm doing boxes. So I'm just going to keep to what I know and how I normally make my little jam chucks. So we'll flick this on. I've got a little mark there, but I'm not going to go all the way, and I'm going to make a taper. So I'll make a taper into the bowl. So picture this. We're standing on this side, right? We're going to make a taper on that bit of timber so it goes like so. Oh God, goodness me, sorry. Like so, like that, and that's the chuck there. Chuck, and then our bowl is going to go. Look at this. Look at me go, eh? Our bowl's going to go around like that and sit into it snugly, up against the shoulder. So it'll have a little shoulder just there, and that's where the face of the bowl will sit into. Going according to plan. Right, so I'm just going to use this square and scraper now and helmet down. We're just going to nip into it. I'm not going to go all the way. We'll just do it a little bit at a time. A little bit more. Might make it a bit bigger. You can hold it up against it whilst the lathe is running, but you know, we'll just do this. And that needs a little, you know, at any time you want to bring your tailstock up, just do it if you want that extra bit of security. But that is firmly on there, very tight. What I'm doing right now, just giving it a little bit of taps on the bottom. Just be super careful because you can crack your piece, obviously. So just very lightly. And then we can balance it as well. So we'll bring this back over, the tailstock here, and we can balance it. So we'll watch that point there. And that looks pretty good. Use another tool, just spin it by hand on the hand wheel. That looks pretty good there. An added safety if you don't feel comfortable, just it hanging on there, is to bring up your tailstock like I just mentioned. Just don't slam it home, obviously. Make sure it's loose, and then just bring it up there. Just to sort of kiss it and hold it on there. And now we can bring our tool rest around, grab a little bowl gouge. I think I've got a little 12mm, yep, little 12mm woodcut tools bowl gouge. So we can work it down. Just going to true that little foot up there. And then once you've sort of removed all that bulk, if you're feeling comfortable, you can then turn it back on and then just take that very light cuts. Hopefully my head is out of the way, sorry. Very light cuts there. I've got a nice sharpened GL5. And then from there, that's not the best. Wow, it's a bit rough. It's a bit rough. I'm just going to take another little cut. I wish you could tell me if my head was in the way, you know. Righto. And that there is how you make your little jam chuck to go on the inside. When you want to go get it off, don't hit the bowl, just hit the bit of timber. Something a little bit smaller than that. I had something else smaller there before. Here we go. Just use the, you know, when you want to get a jam lid off or something, you go around and tap the sides. Here it comes, and there we go. So that is the first way of mounting a bowl onto a jam chuck. Now I'll show you a way of remounting or using a jam chuck from mounting it within inside of a bowl. I'll take my helmet off because I feel like I'm going to hit that camera. So let's use this bowl down here. I'm just not too sure if that tenon, yeah, that's going to be way too big there. Bear with me. Put that up there. Wind this going on. And at the last bit, give it a little flick so that metal really binds on there, because if you spin it in reverse, that friction there will prevent it from coming off. But like I always say, there is these collets, these like little, like a little collar that goes around they go around the back there on your chuck, and that stops it from coming undone when you're spinning it in reverse. So we'll mount this guy in here. So this is this timber here is called silky oak. So it's really nice, really beautiful timber. And I've got to call this bowl out anyway at some stage. So this is if you want to hold like a funky bit of timber, and we're going to go, not a funky bit of timber, just you want to hold something from around the side of it on the inside of a bowl. So we'll show you how to do that one. So I'm just going to start by hollowing this guy out. That gouge is way too. Just going to use this 16mm. And now, when you do this technique, you need flat sides. You need flat sides on it. I'm just going to true this face up. My head in the way. Just going to check that. Make sure I'm not getting too excited. Righto. Just had to adjust that camera so it can pick up what we're doing. So I've just been turning away there, so I've got a little bit more to go. And you might notice that I'm bringing the gouge quite out far away from me to just get that on that right angle. So it's out far, but the flute is closed. The flute's closed away from me. And I'm driving it in fairly straight down to create that straight wall for this little guy to sit in. And I may have gotten a bit greedy on that one. So let's sort that out. So I went a little bit too heavy duty on that. Let's see how this looks now. My apologies. Get that bit of stuff out of there. Right. So we know that we got a little bit more. And now I'm just going to get a little square end. Righto. Give it a clean out. Tap him in. And then you just got to eye it up. So if it's not looking straight, you can run into dramas because they can get stuck. They can get stuck within the chuck. So when you go to put it in, just try and come back with your eye and line that base up, and then give it a little tap then spin it around. Now, that's your internal sort of jam chuck. Bring up the tailstock and then place it on the inside if you're a little bit queasy about it coming back out, because you don't want it flying out when you're turning. And then I will show you when we go to the cushion one, which we'll do now, I guess. So when I use this is a cushion, and you can see where I've had all these previous bowls, it leaves a little stub, and then we need to sand the stub off. So that's just how I go about using the cushion. But there you go, that's how you mount your bowls on a jam chuck or holding them within another bowl, so to speak. If you can't get it out, just tap the mother bowl, holding the other bowl within it. And if that doesn't work, if it's really in there and you've done a really good job of making your jam chuck, simply just take the mother bowl out like that. And I know you've just trimmed all your foot up and you've made it all beautiful, but then you can put it back on the chuck like so, and then tap on the right chuck that'll fit it. Tap the mother bowl off, or bring it over to the side of your lathe and then tap it off like that, or whatever way gets it out. So, because it can be quite annoying when it won't come out. Probably what my mum and dad said to me, get out. That was a really bad joke. But anyway, so we'll just knock him out like that. When I'm doing that, obviously I'm not hitting the bowl that I'm turning the foot off. I'm hitting the mother bowl. But you can see we tap that in there fairly firm, and then give it a good hit and it will come out. Hope that helps you out with making a jam chuck. We'll go on to using the sponge method now, and how we go about doing that is, and I'll show you before I take that off. You see the sort of straight wall in there, and that tapers like so and a flat end, so it sits up against something nice and flat. That's the internal jam chuck. And when I want to take this off, if it gets quite stuck, remove it from there. If you ever have any dramas in getting your chuck jaws off, open the chuck jaws up. And I learnt this off Glenn Lucas. Say the chuck's really stuck there, it's super stuck. Drop your Allen key down the chuck jaws and then give it a hit like that, and that'll get it off. So this is a big piece of MDF. There's 2 pieces on there, screwed, just to give that extra security. So just in case it, over time, MDF, you know, it's sort of a cheap material, but it's great for making all different types of things. But when it comes to, I just added 2 just to give it that extra security. Lots of screws, and there's a thread to fit onto the chuck just here. On and on. Now you will need your tailstock to bring it up, and I have shown this method before. Bring up the tailstock there, grab a bowl, preferably a bowl that you've had a mark on the base previously. So you can see this bowl, before I took it off the lathe, I tend to mark all the bottom of the bowls, and it just makes life a heck of a lot easier when you go to remount them to remove the tenon. Let's make our life harder and say that we didn't have a dot to go off, so we didn't have a mark to go off. So bring up, so just come back and position it by eye. Bring up your tailstock there. When you wind it out, I don't wind it out all the way till it pushes into the timber. I just wind it a little bit like that. I bring over my tool rest, and because that's a nice straight permanent thing, for some reason I like using my thumb as well, and I put my thumb there along the bowl. I bring it around and see where it's touching there. It's touching there. Sorry, it's touching there. And then it's away, touching. So you can go either or. You can go to where it was away and move it to, or you can go where it was touching and move it away. And it's micro little movements, so it's a little bit, goes a big distance. Same if, you know, when you're navigating around in the bush, or, you know, on a flight, on a plane, if the pilot or the person navigating makes a small movement, but over a huge distance, you're way out when you get to your final destination. So We don't want that one. So let's concentrate here and balance, balance this up. I like these videos. I can just talk absolute poo-poo and it makes sense to me. So that's balanced up there now. Now that's when I drive my tailstock home. So it's all the way home there, maybe a little bit more. You don't want to push too hard because what will happen, you will push it like so, and then that'll raise the internal of the bowl and you think you've got a nice flat bottom, and then what happens is when you take the pressure off with the tailstock, it bounces back out of shape. And we don't want that. We want it to be nice and flat for whoever's going to put it on the table in front of people. Let's remove this. Same thing as I did before. Probably too much speed there, but and just bring that tenon down all the way. Got a little bit excited with the speed of the layers there, didn't we? And then you can see that I'm left with this little stub just in here, this little annoying. And this is how I used to turn all the feet off the bowls before there was the other jam chuck, before I purchased a vacuum pump. But this is the way I did it. And let's I honed this before and put a nice sharp edge on this, and then we'll come out away and then back in. So what I did there, when I started that cut, I was away. So I went away, and then so it goes in because your bevel will go in the direction that you point it. So it went in, and then I went flat. So I go in, and then in with my hips. So I go down, and then I bring my hip back, and then I go straight across the base. So hopefully that makes sense. I go in, hopefully this camera up here will pick it up. So I go out with my hip, which goes into the timber, creating that concave foot, and then I swing my hip back and then drive across to the center. Just nice and steady, nice and slow. I'll do one more, actually. Let's check it. Oh, that sounds good, doesn't it? Just need to trim up that outside edge there. Beautiful. And now this is when you can put a bit of detail on the base if you want. You can use your skew. You can use your skew chisel and make a little line, or you can make a cut with your gouge, which goes in a little bit, and then flip it around if you can. And well, I probably won't be able to do with this. I'll show you with the vacuum pump how I do that. So that's that there. And now all you can do is then sand up to that little stub. Get your vacuum pump over. Vacuum pump. It's vacuum pump this video, not not vernier calipers or Roman ogee. Bring the dust extractor over and then sand up the bottom to the stub. Once you've done that and you're happy, get it off the lathe. Oh, it feels gorgeous. Off the lathe now, and then all you want to do is get somewhere stable. Get your drill, put 80 grit on your drill, and don't do this on your lathe, do it on like a flat table, so somewhere nice and flat, and then take your drill to it and sand that little spot down with your 80 grit, and then work your way up, 120, 180, 240, and then if you want to put a oil-based finish on it, just stop around, that 320 mark, 400 mark, put the oil on, and then I would just let that oil soak on there. And then what I would do, so apologies. So once I've sanded it all the way down, I would then sign it or brand it with my branding iron and sign it with my hot pen. And then once I'm done there, I would then oil it up and then give it a light rub with 600 grit sandpaper. Just knocks back any of the little high burn marks made by my hot pen. my pyrography pen. This is one of them. This is one of them here. And I make all my own tips because I like that flowing effect when you sign. And then I sign it up, give it a light little hit with 600 grit sandpaper, throw a little bit of oil on there. Beautiful. 2 coats of oil though, at least 3 coats. If you're using oil, put a couple of coats on there. But that's how I go about removing the tenon using this cushioned pad. So hopefully that helps you out. A couple of bits of MDF. You can put it on a big faceplate. The reason why you want to put it on a large faceplate, go out and get yourself a nice large faceplate, simply because if you put a big bowl against it and you haven't doubled up on the MDF, or if you used, you know, I don't know, you've got a lot of pressure on that bowl or something like that, the sides will move a little bit. So get a nice big broad faceplate on the back if you can. But on mine, you can see where I've got those stacks of MDF stacked out to just take into counterbalance of that, take into account of larger pieces that I have up against it. But I will link at the end of this video the whole works and jerks. There's I made a video of 4 ways of removing a tenon. I didn't have jam chucks involved. So we've done the jam chuck, we've done the soft pad, and now I'll show you the chuck tailstock. So these are all sort of the methods that are quite cheap and effective to use, because they still work a charm. They work really good and they're cost effective, so they don't cost a lot of money to make or to put together. So I'm going to just show you the chuck method. I'm not a huge fan of this, but it's just another way of doing things, right? If you don't want to go and make a board, you don't want to go and spend any money, and you just want to use what you got, you want to get it done quick, and you just want to, you know, so I just open the jaws out nice and wide, and I get something soft. Right, so this method here is, I'm not a big fan of it, but it's just another way of doing things. I've just got some Able Flex here, just some sort of foam you could probably find laying around. You know, those like little square things people put together in gymnasiums and stuff like that. Gymnasiums. Where's our bowl? Now, put the bowl across the face. Yes, I know, just give me a sec. Oh, someone's just waiting in the comments. Right, we've got that there. Now, you want to make sure that your chuck jaws are covering the entire, you want to make sure the foam is covering the entire surface of those chuck jaws, because the last thing you want is for the chuck jaws to mark the inside of your bowl. Once that's done, now you can find Able Flex everywhere. If you see a construction site going on around you, just go and ask the lads if they've got any spare Able Flex. They use it for concreting, so wait till the concreters are there, I guess. But it's cheap stuff. Nip it off, and then obviously don't throw those bits away. They come in handy, but if you end up with, you know, I end up with crap everywhere. I'm like a bowerbird. If I see something, I want to get it. And the wife absolutely loves it. That's a whip for sure. So then we'll do the same thing as before. We want to center up the bowl, balance it, sorry. Don't drive that tailstock all the way home. Now, because that Able Flex probably isn't sitting exactly flat on the inside, you will get a little bit more movement from the bowl when you're trying to balance it up, but that there is primo. Tighten him all up, push it home, check your balance, and we are away. Remove the tenon the exact same way as I just showed you, using the previous method of the foam pad. Once you've got that, take the bowl off, put it somewhere nice and stable. I used to put it on my trolley here. I don't know if this is going to capture it. I used to put it on the trolley in the corner, because that way it couldn't move anywhere. and then I'd sand that down. 80 grit, 120, 180, 240, 320, oil, sign, oil, little sand with 600, done. Another 2 coats of oil, because the oil will soak in and raise that grain up a little bit, and you just want to knock that off the next day and then put another coat of oil on. But that's how I would do the chuck method. I don't have to show you because it's nearly exactly the same as using the foam board method. And then you've got to remove the stub. So now I'm just going to quickly set up for the vacuum pump and set my cold jaws up, and then I'll show you those two as well. So now we've done the tailstock, jam chuck, the soft pad, and showing you how to get it down to the stub. Now we're going to move into the cold jaws and the vacuum pump. The reason why I want to leave the vacuum pump to last is because I want to leave it on. I remembered why now, because I want to finish the rest of these bowls off. Put that on there, they dry out otherwise. So this is the cold jaws, and I actually wanted to talk about something with this as well. Yes, the cork. So you might see on these here, it's got cork. So you can buy rolls of it. I just got it from like a $2 shop, the dollar and cents shop, really cheap. And I've also placed, so this is by Vicmark. I'll put the product name of it up on the screen, as well as these little tabs. They can go concave, so they can fill a space and then expand into it, or contract down to it. So they're really good, and I've got them set to pretty much like the standard size bowls that I have, and then contract down. But because they are so big, when I put them on, I have to then swing the headstock around on this lathe. And you probably are aware that this is a lathe by Vicmark here in Australia. And it's got this really cool feature. So that's where my little air compressor sits on there, if you're wondering. And I've taped that up there so it doesn't scratch the lathe. So then you undo this guy here, wind it back, pull it out, hold it, wind it back. And then I don't take this little indicating pin out, but then you slide the motor around like so. Just lightly press that pin back in until it finds its little home again. So it's like a quarter turn, and then do the headstock back up. Then we're good to go. So that's the beauty about this lathe, is that you can turn on the sort of outboard as well. You can add an attachment to this lathe where you can put a little outboard tool rest and turn out here. So you can have pieces that can literally nearly touch the floor, and whatever the height that would be, it'd be monstrous sort of pieces. But not that I've turned pieces that big. So that just slits in there like that onto the cork. And now when you do it up, you just got to pay attention that you don't sort of want to crack anything. So just be very gentle when you do it up, and just check, make sure that you've got enough pressure on there, because you don't want it flying off, which would be disastrous. Once I've done that up, I then go around and make sure everything is seated really nicely on it, and that's really in there nice and firm. So I'm really happy with that. And now, because we turn on this side, right, when we're in the normal position, so you gotta remember that, because you'll probably want to start turning. I don't know, it's weird because you're here. That's what I experienced anyway. Bring it over till you're face on, turn your lathe down, and yeah, you're away to go. You're ready to go. I'm just going to do light cuts on this, because otherwise I don't want to send it flying off. And I don't particularly like this method, only because it sometimes doesn't spin exactly, sort of like one of the tabs might be out. And I don't remember if you guys remember, probably I think it was 2 years ago now, I collected my knuckles on the little red tabs. That was quite painful. So I'm just taking my time here, just bringing that tenon down. Now these also, before I forget, they have a max speed on them. So Max RPM is 600. And I've lost my readout on this now. The electrics have buggered up, which I hear is, it can happen. I feel like I'm riding a bit high lately. I reckon there's a lot better, a lot more yeah, that's the go, Kezza. Right. Just slowly bringing it down, not causing too much stress onto the timber, and taking a little bit off at a time. Probably could go a little. You might be thinking why I've got that control box there over on my right instead of having it around here. And reason again is a few years ago when I can't remember exactly what happened, but it got a little bit, how's your father? And I went to turn the power off and my wrist hit, like I just quickly went to hit it off. So I just sort of, I know should have it somewhere else, but I keep it there. Now it's sort of muscle memory that it's always there. So I know what you're probably thinking. Someone will have something to say about it, but that's what I'm doing. So I highly suggest, if you ever do get one of these cold jaw setups, is to get those red tabs. Is to get these red tabs by Vicmark. They're really good, so you can get all these different sort of shapes around them, and you just undo the little Allen screw and you move it around to the shape that you need. Once you're happy there, I'll leave them in place. You can get these other little tabs. You can get these little ones as well, but I swapped all them out. I didn't like them at all. That's just personal preference, and I bought all Vicmark ones, and that's just what I use. But I had all different sizes. I had the smaller little Vicmark jaws to start with, and obviously with the smaller ones you can increase the RPM, and they were 1,000. You can go up to 1,000 RPM with those. Just going to clean that up now, get that off the lathe. Just got to be mindful of where that is spinning at all times. And you can probably understand why I like using the vacuum pump when you see it in just a sec. Check the surface, make sure it's flat. Just get your gouge, your straight edge, hold it up against there. Make sure you can see daylight between one side of the foot to the other side of the foot. You can see daylight underneath, and there's no rocking. If you don't want to use your gouge, just use your 150mm ruler. I just need to take a little bit more out of that center there. I'll show you something as well, pretty cool, in just a sec. That wasn't my finest moment. Right. A really cool little thing that I saw a while back that Richard Raffin does is he gets his ruler, and like when you're doing a platter or something, you want to make sure you got a flat surface. Just hold your ruler hold your ruler on there, and wherever that ruler has made like a burnishing mark, if there's marks in the center, you know you're too high in the center. So from there, once I'm happy, I've got daylight under the ruler, which I do, I would then go away and sand that, sign it, and oil it. So that there is the cold jaws method of remounting bowls. Let's get stuck into the vacuum pump whilst I take this off. So starting with the vacuum pump setup, and I've made a full video about all this, and I'll link that at the end of the video, which I highly suggest you go and check out, because I give sort of, you know, all the ins and outs of vacuum pumps and stuff. But that there is a Rothenberger vacuum pump. I got it off a good family friend of mine who is an air conditioning technician, and he had a spare one. So awesome pump. It's a two-stage, 3/4 horsepower pump. I think it's about, from the top of my head, 170 litres a minute in that. And it's got a really cool non-return valve safety feature. So if I lose power in the workshop, it won't let the suction fail off the piece. So awesome pump. So this is called the rotating union. That there, that piece here is by Vicmark in Australia. Just check the next video out that I suggest. Go have a look at all this bits and bobs. This is a T-piece here that I got from a hydraulic company. Don't waste your time going to a plumbing company. And a valve coming off the back here. I got this setup idea off Glenn Lucas, but this is a refrigeration line, so it will not collapse. So if something lands on it in the workshop, it doesn't cut the suction off or anything. So it's a really cool little added advantage that I've got set up for this system. And it just goes on the back of the hand wheel here, wind it all the way on, like so. Once you're there, give it a nip up with your hands, lock the hand wheel off. Just nip it up on the back, don't overdo it. And that is how it all rock and rolls. So I've got a 150mm vacuum chuck here from Vicmark here in Australia. It's got this neoprene sort of rubber around the top. Yes, and then on the back I've got a thread adapter, a M30 thread adapter there that goes onto my lathe. Oop, undo the hand wheel. So we'll put that on there. And now, if you've got the coin, or well, live in the UK especially, there's a company called Airpress UK, and I talk about them in this video that I'll recommend at the end about vacuum pump, like the setup of it all. They are the creme de la creme. They're beautiful vacuum pumps, and they've got some really nice stuff there. It's got a pretty little price tag, but I highly recommend checking them out if you've got a bit of dosh to buy really nice vacuum chucks and stuff. What am I looking for? A bowl, right. So we'll take this tenon off this bowl here. I'm just going to make sure it's clean before I put it on. But the only reason why I know about those Airpress UK vacuum chucks is because Glenn Lucas uses them. He highly recommends them, and when you see them, you'll know why. I'm just cleaning this inside of this bowl, make sure I'm not putting any dust and crap down my vacuum pump. Just going to crack a window. So the hardest thing you'll experience is getting it eyed up on your lathe there, but you'll get used to it. But what I do, I sort of stand back and I look down the face of it, and that's not too bad for my first little sand shoe shuffle. But I'm just going to tilt him up a little bit there like that. Give it another little crack, and that's not that, just there, that little bit there. And this just saves you from having to take it off and put your tailstock on and then put it on with your tailstock, if that makes sense. So you have your little center point marked on your tailstock, bring your tailstock up and then mark it off. But that doesn't look too bad at all. So what I'm going to do now is remove the tenon, but I want to show you that's on there, right? And I'll show you the little safety thing I was talking about. So I've lost power to the workshop and that's not coming off. So it's just that little bit of peace of mind. If you want to buy a vacuum pump, and I go on all about this in the other video that I'll point to at the end, just to get one with a non-return valve. If you can fit one on, do it. Because heaven forbid, if you lost power, you're turning a beautiful piece and it comes flying off the lathe, or you know, you got people over and they're sort of enjoying watching you, you know, and there's a power outage, you'd never forgive yourself. So get one, invest in a good one that you can with a non-return valve, or a pump that has it inbuilt into the unit. That's my 2 cents anyway, because I could never forgive myself if my wife, or you know, had friends over, and or even myself, like, you know, you can forgive you can sort of take, you know yourself, when you hurt yourself, you're like, damn it, you know, like, but if you hurt other people, like, it's not a good thing. So when you know you could have just taken that extra step, but we won't keep going on about that. I will remove this tenon now. So just a 16mm bowl gouge now, and I'm just going to remove this tenon. And obviously now I can spin a lot faster. You know what I mean? You can go a lot quicker when you're using a vacuum pump. And it goes without saying, with all these little methods that I've shown you, the 5 methods, you know, I've learnt them off other people. But the whole theme about this video, I guess, is not only that it's about tenon removal, but it's just about finding other little ways that you can rise to the occasion of what's presented in front of you. I know that's very grandiose thinking, but there's been so many little things that have come up sometimes where I'm just like, how the hell, or how am I going to sort that out? How am I going to fix, or how am I going to go about doing it? And then I remember that one time where, you know, that I saw Richard Raffin doing it, or I saw Glenn Lucas doing it, or Mike Mahoney doing it. And you then remember why, yeah, you went and watched that, because, and then you can show someone else and pass it on. And then we all learn from one another. I had to show you something, didn't I? Yeah, so I want to make a little bit of the detail, so I want to go back the other way. So I'm just going to make a little chomp in there with the foot, and then come back in there like that. So I just sort of always having that flute facing away from me. And that's not a bad finish, straight off the tool there. I don't want to go right out to that edge, but I think I'll need to just take this little bit. Just there. Beautiful. Wunderbar. Nice little crisp little line there. If you want to go do a little bit more, get you a little skew. Roll that skew into that little join if you want. You know, you can make some lines. You can make little lines in there. I don't particularly like that because that's just me. But that there is how I use my vacuum pump, and you can see why once you've set it up, you just nail through all your bowls, and it just makes life so much sweeter. But obviously it is that extra investment. But if I was to pick one or two, let's make it two. Obviously it'd be the vacuum pump. I'll just turn this off. Obviously it'd be the vacuum pump that I would pick out of all of them, right? But if I was to pick another one, it'd be the foam pad. It would be, I'll put it back, remember? It'd be the foam pad, simply because you just whack it on, use a tailstock, go down to the stub, and then do that for the rest of your bowls. And then you can just set up to sand all those little stubs off if you're doing bowls. It's just so simple. It's just so good. If you were using the foam pad to just, obviously when you do a platter, once you've done the recess and then you sand it and finish the back of it, then you turn it around and put it on the chuck and then finish the front. The back is sort of, that's what it is. That's why it stays. If you wanted to roll those edges in of your platters and things like that, of your mortise, so it looks like you can't even tell who tidied it up, just get yourself some of these little foam, they're little felt looking things, they're quite hard, or make some of these with MDF and then put it on your cup center like that, and then away you go. You won't make a mark in the center of your platter or your bowl, whatever you're doing. Just a little circle, little thing like that saves a heck of a lot of a heartache. But if you want to learn more about my vacuum pump setup, all the little ins and outs and the research that I've done on vacuum pumps and things, check this video out here and I sort of tell you the progression and the story behind it all. If you want to learn more about mounting pieces onto your lathe, I've got a video that mentions 4 ways professional wood turners mount their pieces to the lathe. So that'll be just there. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for your time, and I will talk to you all directly. Cheers. Bye. Not a bad little finish there. I don't say myself. It'd be a shame to sand it.